So in preparation for this, I watched a number of TED Talks to get a better understanding of what I was signing on for. In doing so, I realized that there are two kinds of people who speak to groups like this: the deserving and accomplished with great storytelling abilities, and the blissfully ignorant. With that, here we go. My name is Jamie Sue. I'm an architect by training, but now consider myself an entrepreneur. I run award-winning residential construction company, Lakeville Homes, headquartered here in Bellevue, that was started by my mother in 1985. Click. This is us. She's lovely, isn't she? She also looks a little tired, huh? It's okay, you can say it. As far as I know, she stopped aging when I moved out of the house, which was at 16, 18, 22, and 25. You get the picture. And so it's a Chinese thing. It's okay. She's going to get hers when she moves in with me. And now you're all feeling sorry for my husband. So now you're wondering, if this girl's mom started the company, how is this a startup story? I still meet people today who are impressed that I'm in construction. I have a 3-year-old. He's in I have an 8-year-old who's in 3rd grade. And in helping with this classroom a month ago, one of the moms, when I told her what I did, she said, "But you're pretty." But back in 1985, things were even more biased than they are now. Oh, I'm going to put this down. Sorry. As far as women in the construction industry. So while I'm pressing on the glass ceiling, really the trailblazer in the story is my mother. For the first 20-plus years, Lakeville Homes was primarily a spec home builder. That means we built homes for the open market to be marketed by real estate agents with an unknown client. We at Lakeville played the role of the client during the design process, making all the design decisions to turn over what felt like a custom home to the home buyer. Our approach was not to mass produce cookie-cutter homes. Instead, we wanted unique quality over quantity. We also did some renovating and built some actual custom homes, mostly servicing the clientele that had grown to trust us and our product over the years. But that was maybe 10% of what we were doing. Fast forward to 2006, and I came on board. As I mentioned, I went to school for architecture. Go Cougs. I am licensed in the state of Washington, and I worked up and down the West Coast, mostly doing institutional and commercial type work before landing at Lakeville. While I love the project, staff, and client management, I found the work itself in commercial architecture to be soul-sucking. Helping a grocery store open its new produce section a week early wasn't having the impact I wanted on society nor on individuals. Not only that, but what I was doing wasn't playing to my strengths. As I sat in front of a computer for 8 to 10 hours a day, hacking away in AutoCAD, I felt like I was stuck in a bad video game. I was in the world of Tron with colored lines representing space, and at one review, I was told by my supervisor, quote, "You're not technically strong." But then what followed was gold. He said, "But you're a master at the art of BS." Yes, that BS. I'm not sure he meant it as a compliment, but I took it as a good thing. I had people skills, is what I heard. Not that everything I communicate is BS. But people, that was the part of my work that was feeding my spirit. So I came over to Lakeville in 2006 to work with people on something that mattered to them. I mean, if you don't care about your home, the backdrop of your family memories, what do you care about? I also came over in hopes of captaining a ship I could steer. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and my timing was perfect because we were just about to enter the dun-dun-dun Great Recession. I did a really good job at coming in at a high and riding the business down to the lowest low it had seen. I remember hearing my mom talk about how she had never actually lost money on a project until I came on board. But really, this is where the story gets interesting. We went from being a general contractor who didn't work for many clients to being one who only worked for clients. We went from using our own money or money we had borrowed to using only other people's money, which is pretty fun. We went from high risk to low risk and had returns that matched those risks. We fundamentally changed as a company between 2008 and 2009 because we had to. We couldn't sell it for what we could build it for, with all the foreclosures flooding the market. Banks weren't lending to general contractors anymore. It didn't matter that we had 15 years of good standing with our credit line. They were getting burned by general contractors at every turn, so they just simply drew a line. This ended up being a perfect and logical time to pass the baton at Lakeville Homes, especially if you were my mother. My mom brought me in as her succession plan long before she knew how soon she would need one. And I came on board to stretch my entrepreneurial muscles, and I was going to have to learn quickly. That's where our paths converged and were pretty much last aligned. Where I was a queen of happy hour and a social butterfly, my mom is more of an introverted maven. She's an artist of her craft. She's a numbers person. She understood the development process enough to get the outcome that she wanted. Those skills were not ones I had learned yet. But also, suddenly, her skills weren't the ones that were going to keep the lights on at the company that was like her fourth child. She was never going to networking events to shake hands and to build a brand. She probably also wasn't going to see the return she wanted from the project types we were now pursuing. The economy was forcing her hand, and it was forcing change. Not only did my skills suit where our company needed to go, but so did the skills of our staff. In the past 2 years, Lakeville has brought on a few new people, but for a while there, I was the newest employee. For the hires before me, our staff averages over 20 years of employment with Lakeville. There's a tremendous amount of loyalty, trust, and a team that truly functions as a second family. That being said, our field guys were conditioned to work with women. The people acting as clients for the spec projects were my mom, our longtime project manager, Felicia, or myself. Think about that. When you're at home, who cares about the color of the cabinets or the appliances and whether or not they're fulfilling the need that they're there for? Who do you think our renovation and custom home clients are? They're women. 90% of the time, it's the lady of the house who's driving the project, making the decisions, and working with our team to see the project to fruition. The person who sees and is concerned about whether biscuit or white is the way to go for the toilet is rarely the person who lifts the seat. And those women communicate in a totally different, stuck together. Those women communicate in a totally different way than the average guy in construction. Through literally decades of practice, our field crew already knew how to communicate with women. They already spoke our language, understood how our decision-making process works, and had exposure to how our priorities are often different than their own. We had inadvertently been training for prospering through the Great Recession for over 20 years. In an economy that's allowing for speculative building again, Lakeville Homes remains deeply rooted in renovation and custom homes, not only because I can't say speculative building. In other words, spending other people's money. Why? Because we're good at it. We've carved out a bit of a niche for a customer base that actually wants service and are willing to pay for it. I like to think we're a small-scale Nordstrom-style contractor. We have one foot back in spec building too, but we plan to stay in renovations. So what are my takeaways? This talk was supposed to have a point, right? Number one, recognize and use the tools that you have. Whether it's you as an individual and as an entrepreneur or the team that you have built, what are your assets and how can you make the most of them? Being unapologetically you and standing out. I'm a minority, a woman, and I'm under 50. I am definitely an anomaly in the construction industry. Standing out is okay, and in itself an asset. Number two, fill in the gaps. These hands, these ones, they haven't seen the handle of a hammer on any of our projects. Our insurance barely allows me to be on site, much less work on anything. So if Lakeville Homes is a pie and I'm just one part of it, the team fills in the gaps that I don't have, and I fill a role that they potentially couldn't do without me. 6 me's is not a recipe for success, ask my husband. We are better as a team than we are as separate because of our differences. I wish it was foresight and careful planning on my part that gave us the tools to weather the years that took down many of our colleagues. But it was all part of God's greater plan. And this brings me to number 3. Sometimes God puts you exactly where you need to be, and he equips you to succeed. So trust and move forward boldly. And lastly, if I can have a number 4, do it scared. Being afraid of the task immediately ahead of you suggests personal growth. This is a good thing. Embrace it and go for it. And I'm not just talking about in business. Thank you, Josh, and the 425 Live group for letting me be a part of this. It's been one of the scariest things I've done, and therefore a real treat. Thank you.